"He should be here in 10 minutes, I conveyed to Stuart as I slumped into a nearby chair. I could feel my excitement and my energy rising, threatening to bubble up inside of me. Why am I so up a height? I scolded myself internally. It wasn't long before the taxi pulled up outside of the door in the street below. I briefly considered staying upstairs and allowing Stuart to escort Kenny up on his own, as it seemed less obvious. But my curiosity and excitement got the better of me. After all, it was only good manners to welcome him in too. Following closely behind Stuart, I bounced down the stairs. Stuart went ahead of me to help Kenny out of the car with his bags, as I stood in the doorway peering out into the glistening darkness. "It hasn't even occurred to you that he won't be good-looking, has it?" Carl probed in my mind as I watched Kenny's tall, dark silhouette climb from the car outside. Strangely enough, it hadn't, I realized in surprise, as the figure began to walk towards the door. When he finally came into the light of the hallway, I quickly glanced up at him while trying, probably overly hard, to make sure that I played him down in my mind. He was just a normal guy, just like all of the other guys I'd met. He was nothing special. There was no need for my heart to be thumping as if it were about to burst out of my chest like some kind of mad alien. As it turned out, he was really good-looking, as I'd presumed. He was tall and broad, with a warm smile and twinkling hazel eyes. His brown hair was short and stuck flat to his head due to the rain, but the effect was not unattractive. He smiled in hello as he saw me, and I beamed back in response. "He's okay, but nothing special," I told myself as I spun on my heels to lead the way back upstairs. I just about convinced myself. He sat sodden and dripping on one of our black leather chairs in the corner of the room by the fire, looking as if someone had tried unsuccessfully to drown him. I threw him a dry towel with a giggle as I entered the room, which he began to use roughly on his hair. Stuart and I sat down side by side on the couch opposite him to introduce ourselves properly. It took only a few moments to establish that he'd had something of a bad trip, and that, more importantly for me, he smoked. I was so glad to hear that, since many of the problems I'd encountered with people in the past had been due to my resistance of quitting the cigarettes. I bounced up from the couch and practically dragged him to my favourite spot in the whole place, the back door, which was the only place in our home that I was allowed to smoke. A kind of compromise arrangement with Stuart, since he didn't smoke. I didn't mind, as I got to meditate over the rooftops as I indulged, and it always helped clear my head. Kenny began to speak of his journey and his life in very vague terms as I peered up at him, both engrossed and silent. I had to admit that he was exactly what I'd been expecting, if I'd ever bothered to stop and think about it consciously for even a moment. From the recesses of my mind, I vaguely became aware of Carl's voice screaming at me in annoyance as I listened to Kenny's account of his journey. "Gillian! It's me! Do you recognize me? It's me!" What the hell was he going on about now? I wondered absently as I continued my conversation with Kenny in the real world. What a strange thing for him to say. Oh well, I thought as I dismissed him, which I generally did as having gone completely mad. It was certainly not the first time he'd come out with rubbish. In fact, it was an everyday occurrence now. It was just strange that it was so contrary to the usual sulky repertoire of "he's not me" that I'd become so accustomed to over the years. I shook the subject away and went back to focusing my attention on Kenny once again.